So, a quick back of previous class. Can somebody of you volunteer what we have learned in the previous class? That is the part one of learning disability. Just a quick summarization. Only topic is also will work. I want someone from you to volunteer to summarize the previous class. Nobody will be a volunteer. Jyoti, you were there at the last class, right? Will you like to summarize in a very 2 or 3 lines or 4 lines what was there in the last session?
Ma'am, learning disabilities are the disorders that affect the ability to do the students or the kids, and ADHD is considered as a learning disability.
ADHD is an associate condition. ADHD is associate condition with a learning disability. Learning disability and ADHD it's not same, but person those who are having ADHD or learning disability may or maybe they are affected with other disability. Okay, thank you, Jyoti. Kalyani has raised her hand. Okay, Kalyani, you can unmute and you can share your uh, home back topic, whatever you have learned from the last class.
Good evening, ma'am, and good evening, everyone. We were introduced to basically what learning disability is, but the
Yes.
most important thing for me that I learned in that session is that you told us the difference between learning disability and learning difficulty, which is that difficulty is a temporary situation while learning disability is a permanent situation and there is no cure for that, but there are definitely some measures to manage it. So that's what
That's
I
very
learned.
good. That is the most important prospect of my first introductory class. The difficulty and disability, these are not the same thing. Okay. And what else? We had learned the definition. We have excluded the criteria that that shouldn't come under considered under learning disability or associate condition. We had quickly gone through it. What is assessment? And today's topic is what are the types of learning disability and some of the type of assessment. Okay. So let's start with the class. So what is today's topic? Today's topic is learning disability part 2.
Ma'am, Happy New Year in advance because I
I saw
think uh,
New Year में अभी बाकी है सोनू wait. Before
I
that we
know
had
that, but will be class or not, na?
no before New Year there will be no class. Before that, Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
Uh, PPT is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's good.
Ma'am, where will get these slides?
Where you will get this slide? This is self-made, Baba. I cannot tell you where you will get these slides. Okay. So directly I'm coming to the today's topic because introduction part is already covered and we had quickly gone through with the last topic. What we have learned, the last topic. That was in a nutshell. Okay. So type of specific learning disabilities. The four most important type of learning disabilities: dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and dyspraxia. Okay. But when we go into the details, there are some other conditions that comes under learning disability. We will, in very short, I will talk about these conditions, and in the future session for individual condition, I will come up with the characterization, the assessment type. Okay. So first we will read about dyslexia. So we all about known about the terms. Dyslexia is learning difficulty, but this learning difficulty mostly associated with reading difficulties, where the child or the person, it's not like if the person is adult, the persons don't have learning disabilities. It's a lifelong condition, that's why it's called disability. So the affected skill involved in accurate and fluent word reading and spelling, features by difficulty in phonological awareness, verbal memory, verbal processing speed, and it's associated with intellectual disabilities also. The associate condition with dyslexia. People, those who have intellectual disability, by default, they will be facing difficult learning difficulties. The next one is dysgraphia. So this is also well known term, but sometimes what we do now, we get very confused that is it dysgraphia or dyscalculia. Sorry, dyslexia. When a person is facing difficulty in reading or phonological awareness, definitely the person will, whatever he is writing or she is writing, handwriting will be affected. The spelling will be affected. So in generally the situation is come in collaboration, like the person has dyslexia, may or maybe the person has some other condition that's come under learning difficulty, sorry, learning disabilities. So you cannot differentiate that the person is dyslexic only. That's need to be go into very deep to understand whether the person is only dyslexic or dysgraphia. Most of the cases one condition is associated with other condition. So in dysgraphia, it's a neurological disorder and learning disability that concern written expression, which affect the ability to write, primarily handwriting. It's very illegible handwriting, and most common that child do the error. They write in a wrong orientation of B and D, P and Q. Okay, this is the common thing we face in classroom when we are going to teach. It is a specific learning disability as well as a transcription disability, that the person is not able to transcript what he is thinking. He is not able to express in written form. Okay, and a person have dysgraphia. The person handwriting will be illegible. The holding pen, we generally, this is the tripod grip. This is the perfect grip for writing. The when the person is not holding the pen in that a particular manner, so it is always associated with weakness of muscles. So learning disability, but mainly dysgraphia is associated with these conditions also. So dyscalculia, difficulty in coding of the mathematical interpretation and unable to understand the mathematical sign, have trouble with maths and numbers because their brain do not process math related concept in the same way as the people with other disorders do. Then the next one is auditory processing disorder. Auditory processing disorder is not the same when the person is facing hearing difficulties or hearing disability, hearing impairment. This is not the same condition. Here the person is listening the same thing, but the processing is different. So that's why auditory processing disorder. Audit audit means what we are hearing, and processing means the brain is decoding the information. Disorder means the person is not able to decode the information. The processing problem, they have the processing problem. So it's made difficult for people to understand auditory system. Their auditory system is impaired, causing the brain to have difficulty understanding what they hear. It is not a form of hearing loss, but the people with auditory processing disorder have difficulty of hearing related task. The next one is language processing disorder. Again, this is the processing disorder. That's mean what the person is trying to express through language, it's not able to do. Again, it's a neurological problem where brain dysfunction is associated. That means the person's language, what they are trying to express themselves through their language, they're not able to do. So either they will sometimes they will speak in very one words. In ASD also we had seen, right, the people express themselves in one words or in gesturally. So this is all about processing disorder. They are not able to process or decode the information. It is difficulty to understand the meaning of the words and sentence and the narration. So this is also a processing disorder. And the next one is non-verbal learning disorder. So this is also a type of learning disability, that difficulty with motor, visual, spatial, and social skills. Children with non-verbal learning disorders differ from the problem involving, uh, I mean, what they are facing. Kids, those who have non-verbal learning disorder, they are facing difficulty in well spoken and write well. They are not able to read or write properly. But it is different from dysgraphia and dyscalculia because the functioning or the processing is different. But struggle with social stories and comprehension of the abstract concept. Then the visual processing or perceptual disorder refer to hindered ability to make sense of information taken through eyes. That is the difficulty in visual clues. The person is, whatever the information presented to the person is seeing it correct, but understanding, the processing is again hampered. That's why they are what they are seeing, they are not getting the exact information. So there is a interpretation will be difficult. Sorry. Difficulty with visual processing affect how visual information is interpreted or processed by the brain. What is the next one? Next one is, so this was the main type: dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, auditory processing disorder, language processing disorder, non-verbal learning disabilities, and visual perception disorder. Sorry, disabilities. This is the main categories, and some other associate conditions that can be considered as a type of learning disabilities. Executive function disorder. What exactly executive function disorder is? Dysfunction is a term used to describe fault or weakness in the cognitive process. Again, the processing problem. Actually, this type of disabilities where the person cannot understand from outside what exactly the person is facing. This kind of disability, that's a non-visible disability, is mainly, most of the cases, associated with processing. The ASD also, in some cases, we will see the processing and the expression difficulties. So in learning disability also somewhere it's related. A person having ASD may not or may be having learning difficulties also. In some cases, the person maybe have learning disabilities as well. So the person who have this executive dysfunction face difficulty to organize their personal task, project, and they are unable to maintain a strategy, planning. They are very unorganized. They cannot plan anything, but they are good in execution, but they cannot plan. Before planning is always important. If you are doing a project, you have the clear concept how you are going to present your thoughts, your idea. So that is the planning part, then the execution. But those kids, they have difficulty in executive dysfunction. Those have executive dysfunction, this type of learning disability, they are very bad at planning. Okay, they face difficulty to maintaining time, any activities that is related to the time, and they might have similar problem keeping their personal items and bedroom organized. The next one is perceptual disabilities. From the name itself, we can understand that there is a difficulty in perceptual. So perceptual is a learning disability can make difficult to process sensory information like sound, then touch and sight, auditory, visual, and touch sensation. This can include reading impairments and writing impairments. Then the next one is brain injury. Any sort of brain injury can lead to a learning disabilities. Maybe the deficiency of oxygen supply during birth, maybe a traumatic accident, maybe fall after birth, that's lead to a severe brain injury. Maybe meningitis. In this kind of situation, when brain functioning is uh, face, there is some difficulty to processing problem into the brain. there is some damage in any portion of the brain. So this type of brain injury lead to learning difficulties. Then the next one is minimal brain function. It's a diagnostic term that refers to a neurodevelopmental disorder that affect the brain perception area. It can cause mild to severe learning and behavioral disabilities in children with average and above average intelligence. Then the developmental aphasia is a language disorder that affect a child's ability to use words and express ideas and needs and to understand the speech of other people. It can manifest itself as a disability in speaking with near normal speech understanding. It is characterized by severe, specific, and unexplained developmental language impairment. So, this was a gist idea about the type of specific learning disability. So, I have a query for all the participants. Can you identify few terms? What is keep on repeated? I had repeated throughout my explanation, particularly two terms that was a keep on repeating. Can anybody had identified the two terms? What was that? One is impairment. Anybody wants to volunteer?
I think it's a neuro something disorder,
Hmm.
neurological or
Hmm.
something like.
Hmm. And another one? One is processing and another is brain functioning.
Yes,
Process.
processing.
So, as I told, it was a very gist idea about all the type of disability. Upcoming session will be covered the full characterization of all the disabled conditions and with the assessment type because different condition need different type of assessment. So now we will move to assessment. Can anybody read the slide?
Yes, yes.
Sonu?
Assessment.
Sonu? Okay, Sadia. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, continue.
Assessment refers to the process of gathering and analyzing information in order to make instructional, administrative, and or guidance decisions about or for an individual. This is the definition by Wallace, Larson, and
Alex,
Elkins, 1992.
1990.
And assessment involves the systematic collection, organization, and interpretation of information about an individual to enable decision to be made about him by
Yeah, thank you.
Sandberg and Taylor.
Thank you, Sadia. Now I want one more volunteer who will explain me, is there any similarity? Because this one is 1962 and another definition is 1992. So there was a huge time lapse. But is there any difference or any similarities in these two statements?
No,
Ma'am, similarities are there.
mostly same only.
Only similarities.
Yeah.
Actually, when we talk about assessment, we always focus on two things. It is we emphasis on two things. One is systematic gathering and analyzing of information, and based of this information, making
Making
decisions using
decision.
that information. So first, we will collect the information. There are the various steps we will discuss how to collect the information, and after that, a trained professional will analyze the information and make decision to guide individual based on their needs. So this is the definition of assessment. Though there is a huge time gap, but the main focus or both the definition emphasis on the same topic. Then what is the purpose of assessment? Initial identification or screening, determination and evaluation of teaching program and strategies, determination of current performance levels and educational needs, decision about classification and program placement, development of individualized education program. May or may not be a child need all the purpose. Initial identification and screening is very important. Without identification or screening, you cannot send a person for further assessment. If the assessment is not done, you cannot take any decision regarding the condition. If the decision is not making or the child is not diagnosed with proper condition, you will not able to find out where the lapse is going on, and you will not be able to train the kids based on the needs. So this is the purpose of assessment. So now I will move to type of assessment. Before that, I would like to know, till now I had covered in a nutshell about the type of learning disabilities and what is assessment and why assessment is required. Is it clear to everyone, or if anybody has any queries, the person can write it down into the chat box. Okay, Kalyani has raised your hand. You want to ask any query? You have to ask any questions?
Yes, ma'am, just a small question.
Yeah,
You
sure.
were saying that minimal brain dysfunction is a diagnostic term. Ma'am, what is it used for?
It is used for to diagnose a child have learning disabilities, but it is different from dysgraphia, dyscalculia. This condition is excluded, but still the child have learning disability. And why the child have learning disability? That is explained by this minimal brain function. In the minimal brain function, what they have told, that it's a neurodevelopmental disorder. Learning disability is not a developmental disorder. You cannot, it's not visible, right? So it is not a developmental problem. You cannot identify by the developmental growth. But it is neurodevelopmental disorder that affect the brain perception areas. So that can cause severe learning difficulties and behavioral issues. It can
Okay,
happen,
ma'am.
not associate with IQ. Okay, the child
Okay.
might have higher level of IQ, but still the child have learning disability. But the common disabilities that we are aware about, that dysgraphia, dyscalculate, it's not associated with that.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
welcome. Any more query, or I will move on to type of assessment. Type of assessment. So, though learning is always associated with reading, writing, but it doesn't mean that learning is always confined into. Ma'am, can you explain the difference between language processing disorder and dyslexia? Okay, sure, I will. Okay, Rekha, I will. Okay, so in the type of assessment, sorry, what I was there, I was telling that
About learning.
learning is not always confined to books and copies. I keep on repeating, learning is about what we are seeing, what we are observing around us, and what interpretation we are drawing, and according to that we are reacting. This is also a learning. In the no kids get the information from the school that it's too hot, we need to switch on the AC. This is the kids learn this by observing. So it's not always about education. It's not about always schooling, books and copies. Learning is not always associated with that. Learning means getting information from the environment and decoding them, and according to them, behave according to them in the social scenario. So in the type of assessment, this is clinical assessment. Clinical assessment will be done by a doctor that the child is physically fit, but still the child have difficulty in the read and write. Then observational assessment. Observational assessment can be done by parents, class teacher, or a trained professionals. Then the educational assessment. Educational assessment done by the teachers or a special educator. Then curriculum based assessment. This is also done by the teacher, and psychological assessment is done by a psychologist. Behavioral assessment done will be the behavioral therapist or a professional psychologist, clinical psychologist. Then the functional assessment. Functional assessment can be done by the any trained or aware person. That is maybe a parent, occupational therapist, special educator, or a pediatrician. That can be done. Anybody can do that, because according to the age, the child is functioning level is appropriate or not. That can be done by the observation. We all know that by 1.2 years the kids might be start walking, but it's already 2 years, but this kid is not able to walk. Who teach the child to walk? This is just an observation, right? And out of practice. So this is the fundamental assessment. This is just example of fundamental assessment. Then the type of assessment for SLD.
Ma'am,
The
what is clinical assessment?
clinical assessment means physical assessment done by a professional doctors.
Doctors. Okay, thank you.
Type of assessment for SLD. There is two types. One is informal assessment and there is a formal assessment. Testing for SLD usually involves three primary types of assessment. What are that? First is IQ testing or cognitive potential testing. Second testing is processing, how the person is processing the sensory inputs. And the third was is assessment of curriculum based education. Sorry, curriculum current educational achievement. Then the informal assessment. Informal assessment is the classroom assessment. Classroom assessment. Classroom assessment is done by the teacher, class teacher or a special educator or a psychologist. And the systemic observation. This is also done by the classroom teacher, because classroom teachers are the first person who can identify any sort of difficulties, because they are seeing the neurotypical kids and they are kids with the disability, so they can identify the difference. So they are the first person after parents to identify any sort of differences from a neurotypical kids and a kids need extra support. Though parents are the first person, but sometimes they missed. Or they can miss in various situations. That will I will excluded that part. But the classroom teachers are the best to observe and identify on the basic level whether the kids had any differences from their neurotypical kids or the kids need any extra support. They are the first person to identify. Systematic observations, they are not structured, they are observing but in a structured format. Maybe they are asking the questions and they are observing the response. This is a systematic pattern. Then field review and the interviews. Field reviews mean they're going with the kids into the classroom or in the library. If it's in happening in the school, if it's in a special educator, they have access in the various fields. But if it's in the, we talk about the teachers, we talk about the various field in the school like library, computer room, dance. They can observe them and interview different teachers, parents, and the kids. These are as important as administrating formal instrument to determine level of academic skills for development and identity of strength and weakness of the learning process, because it is so important to intervene as early as possible. Teachers should not wait for formal assessment to occur before they put the strategy into the practice. So, whenever any teacher or parents observe any kind of difference from the neurotypical kids, the intervention should be administered right after that. As early as we start the intervention, the result will be more, outcome will be more. So this was about type of assessment, formal assessment and informal assessment. Now I will talk about how we can gather the information, because the first thing is in the assessment definition of assessment, gathering the information. So we have to learn how can we gather the information. So we can gather the information from various sources like family, teachers, counselor, learning assistant or other records. Learning assessment means book, copy, any videos or any performance videos or any relevant medical reports. That maybe the child has assessed for visual difficulties or hearing difficulties, or maybe the muscle weakness, or keep on that the child is not performing as per other kids in the class. Maybe always he is very shy, sleepy. This type of condition is associated. So the child might have gone to a practitioner who is able to identify is there any differences, or the child, why the child is facing this kind of issues. Once a student has been referred for a formal assessment, a teacher or the principal will need to obtain parent permission and assist the student and their parent in understanding what will occur during the formal assessment process. The first informal assessment, then the consent from the parents, then only you can give any intervention to the kids and a formal structured. Now it's formal assessment. The formal assessment is done by a clinical psychologist. It involves the use of different instrument or tools, that is educational assessment, reveals difficulty in the areas of perceptual or information processing, language and auditory processing, attention and other areas of executive functions, motor abilities and or social skills, as well as reading, writing, language and mathematics. Process of assessment for kids with LD. First, we will take a case history. Then assessment, formal assessment, that intelligent functioning. We will now move to formal assessment. For in the formal assessment, first we will we will send a kid for IQ testing. Then we will look for academic achievements. Some of the most commonly internationally used educational batteries, I have uh, listed down about this educational batteries that is internationally used. So you can read it by yourself. Giving just 1 minute, we just gone through with the batteries. That is the international educational batteries.
And these are basically questionnaires that assessment forms, right?
Yeah, this
These
is the
batteries.
assessment forms. There is a various. Maybe there is a they have to do they have to draw something. They have to arrange blocks. They have to read. They have to write. They have to listen. There is a different. That's why this is called batteries, because there are different dimensions are there about this educational batteries. This is the assessment format, but it is called batteries because there are different dimensions are there. And after that, the psychologist will assess the emotional behavioral status of the kids. Okay, so I have a query, okay, from all the participants. Why the emotional and behavioral status should be assessed for a kids who is going for the assessment of LD?
Ma'am, because most of the times that is the most underrated thing. Because the children, they are under so much stress and shame, and they are cornered in the classrooms and all. Uh,
No, if the child has learning disability, this kind of situation is quite obvious. But when we are sending any kids for further formal assessment to a psychologist, the psychologist will assess the emotional and behavioral status. Why?
Probably to figure out if it's a learning difficulty or disability, because difficulty can be because of the all these
That is
environmental
a very good
and
answer. Thank you, Hima. That's one perfect answer. Because emotional and behavioral status sometimes lead to learning difficulties, and we can miss the information that the child is having learning difficulties or learning disabilities. So that's why the emotional and behavioral status must be assessed, and if they're found they are under stress or any pressure, that should be excluded from learning disability condition. Thank you, Hima. That's a very nice answer. Okay,
thank
so
you.
some of the suitable screening and assessment tests for use were teacher to develop the India. This is for India. First one, this one, the batteries. This is internationally acceptable. We do use in India also, but some specific are for India only. This is the diagnosis text of learning disability, behavioral checklist for screening and learning disability, grade level assessment device for children with learning problems in primary school, arithmetic and diagnostic test for primary school children, and Niemann index for SLT. So these tools are broadly used. This is grade level assessment device for children with learning problems in primary school. Okay, and NIMHANS index for SLT. This is the most widely used tools in India. This is screening tools. NIMHAN index is assessment tools and grade level assessment device for children with learning problems and in primary school, that is developed by Jayanti Narayan. This is the screening tools. Okay. Now we will talk about CBA. What is the full form of CBA? Curriculum based assessment. CBA entitles a measurement that use direct observation and recording of a student performance in the local curriculum as a basis of gathering information to make instructional decisions. Curriculum based assessment is a type of ongoing assessment that is will continue. It's not like once you assess the child, then the child is labeled that have the problem. It is ongoing, and there is a frequent break of every 3 months or every 6 months. The child will be assessed based on the curriculum. Involve periodic monitor of a student daily performance in relation to what is taught. It provides a measure for a student progress through the curriculum and whether that progress is adequate. CBA is based on the skills described in the student's curriculum. It's repeated frequently throughout the year and is used as the basis of educational decision making and student planning. CBA is a teacher created evaluation tool. There is a no fixed screening tools for CBA. Based on the curriculum, the teacher made some questions or screen questions, and based on these questions, the student is evaluated on a periodic basis. The teacher have to find out, so that during lesson planning, the teacher will fix that after every topic the child will evaluate. So there will be periodic monitoring, either based on the topic or based on the time frame. The examine student progress and mastery in the concept. These can be built unit of test or quiz, worksheet, and class project. CBA are not standardized. They may or may not be timed teacher's choice. So it is based on the teacher's choice. They are also more prone to teacher error. This is the drawback of CBA, that it's based on the understanding of the teachers. So there are some drawbacks. So what exactly CBA is in a nutshell? CBA is always similar to teacher made test. Based on the curriculum, teacher will make some quiz, questionnaires or worksheet, and based on that periodically the student will be evaluated. This is CBA. Now, curriculum based measurement, that's CBC. So there was so many information, all the information I have tried to put, because CBA is a very vast, big topic. So most of the important topic I had covered in related to the CBA. So it is a curriculum based measurement, the same as CBA. Approach of measuring student academic growth along with evaluating the effectiveness of the instruction in the classroom. Curriculum based measurement is a simple test of standardized procedure that a way to obtain reliable and valid measurement of a student's achievement. So CBA is not a standardized tool, but CBM is a standardized tool. This is the main difference between CBA and CBA and CBM. Both are based on the curriculum, and CBM is mostly focused on a long-term goal, as CBA is CBA, that curriculum based assessment is a periodically evaluation is done, but for CBM the focused on a long-term basis. It's not evaluated after a week or after a topic. It's a classroom. Although the curriculum-based measurement is sensitive to classroom instruction and can indicate student progress toward long-term goals, and it is less susceptible to the content. So what is the basic difference between CBA and CBM?
CBM is standardized form and CBA is not a standardized form.
Very good. Thank you. Any
And
other?
it's a long-term assessment.
Yeah, it's a long term. CBM is a long term. The focus is a long term. Okay, there is
Yeah.
no frequent evaluation is done. Yeah,
Yes.
Kalyani, yeah, tell me. You had raised your hand.
Ma'am, does it mean that the school boards, that is the central board and the state boards, are under CBM?
Yes.
Okay.
And curriculum based measurement is related to the students in measuring for the
Sorry, Sonu, repeat once again.
curriculum based measurement is approach to measure the students in academic in like
It's a
schools.
both the in both the cases, that is CBA and CBM. In both the cases, the focus they focused on to assess the student understanding. But the difference is they both are based on curriculum. But one is teacher led and another was a standardized. And one is frequently evaluate. After there is a fixed monitoring period. After that, the teacher student will be evaluated. Then the class test is an example of CBA. But annual exams or half yearly exams, these are the example of CBM.
Ma'am, now is two only na two
Hmm.
exams only. SA1 and SA2 only now.
No, some schools have more than that. Even ICSE boards, they have more than exams. There is a main two exam, but in frequently like from the class test or assessment one, assessment two,
Ma'am, formative assessments like
yes, that's CBA type of assessment. Okay. Now I will talk about grade level assessment device. Can you see I had put the cursor? This is the first page of GLAD. This grade level assessment device, it's a screening tool. This is the first page of the, it's not very clear, the pictures, but it's seen like that. It's developed by Jayanti Narayan. Okay, and it is published under the NIMH. Earlier it was known as NIMH Secunderabad branch. Now it's the name is converted to NIPID, NIEPID, NIPID. In 1997, based on the curriculum, the grade level assessment device, it's a screening tool for learning disability, was developed by Jayanti Narayan. Then Prashast. Prashast is a mobile app. All the disability conditions are not visibly identified. It's not possible. So Prashast has developed a whole app that include all the 21 disabilities, and it is mandatory for Kendriya Vidyalaya in all over the India to fill up the Prashast after every new academic sessions. But it's a very generalized, it's not particularly specialized for learning disability. All the other 21 disabilities come under. So all the 21 disabilities can be identified with the process, but it's a very initial level. This Precious app will help for school-based screening of 21 disability condition recognized by RPWD Act 2016 and generated the school level report for further sharing with the authorities for initiating the certification process. Certification for learning disability or any other disability, because the certification process itself is a very complicated process. So if they start early into the school, the teacher, that the process has to fill up with the school authorities and the respective teachers. If they identify the problems in the base level, when the the differences or the special needs support is introduced, if they identify this situation at the very base level, it is easy to understand that okay, so this is the way, and based on that the school authority can planning the support and guide the parents. Then the first screen orchid, this is also another mobile app. This is also free. Prashas is not free for everyone. This is mainly used for schools. Then first screen orchid, it is a free mobile app. It can be download from the Google Pay, Google what is that, Google
Google Play Store.
Google Play.
Play
Yeah, Play.
Store.
Google Play.
Google Play or Play Store. It can be
Play Store.
downloaded, yeah, and can be used by everyone. This is also for only identification and the screening. No labeling purpose or diagnosis purpose. It's not used. So here I have just put the child name will be shown, age, date of assessment, and the skill indicator. That which in which field the child need more support. Green means no concern, the perfect. Okay. Yellow means mild concern. And for this child, Devi, that executive, reading, and oral, the child is facing difficulty in these three level. Okay. And the red is significant concern, that the social, math, motor, writing, and memory. The child is facing difficulty, more difficulty in these three sector. So this was the base how you can identify a child who have learning disabilities. So today we have talked about types of disability. Today we have talked about type of specific learning disability, then the assessment, purpose of assessment, and the various type of assessment, and few tools or apps that is widely used in India. That is Prashast. This is GLAD, Grade Level Assessment Device, Prashast, and First Screen Orchid. This is widely used in India. And we had talked about international batteries. And we have talked about some widely accepted teacher developed testing, screening, and assessment tools. So that was all about today's presentation. Okay, thank you. Now, if you have any queries, okay, I
And
have.
thank you for the session.
Ma'am, can you,
Thank you.
ma'am, I joined late because of a meeting. Can you just go through the slides once? I can take screenshot.
Ma'am, may I ask?
Yeah, sure. Just a minute.
Ma'am,
Let me close the sharing. First, I will go through with the questionnaires into the chat box. Okay. Rekha is there any age to start the assessment? No, there is a no age to start the assessment. As early as we start, it's better. Okay. But before assessment, the screening observation that should be done. If the class teacher or parents find any difference from the neurotypical kids, then the child should send for the formal assessment. Padmini has light specific learning disorder. Yes, this is the full form of SLD. Ma'am, can you zoom it more? It's already covered. I didn't see your message. Red means what? Red means severely affected. These domains are severely affected. One more question. Can you explain the difference between language processing disorder and aphasia? Okay. Sure. So aphasia is the child is facing difficulty to process the word and express the idea and understand the uh, narration of the other person. So what other person is trying to say, and based on that, the child is not able to express him or her. So the speech is normal for asphyxia. The speech is normal. Speech, it doesn't affect it. It's, the child can speak properly. But for language processing disorder, the speech will be impaired. The child will not be able to express him or herself with words because there is a processing difficulty. Speech is impaired. But in developmental aspia, speech will not be impaired. There is maybe we can say that the in aphasia lack of vocabulary is associated. If we give an example for aphasia, the kids have developmental aphasia, maybe they had limited vocabulary, that's why they are not able to speak and not able to understand the narration of the other person. But in uh, language processing disorder, the child is not able to process the language. they क्या बोलना है, what should I say, that is difficulty. Or maybe they will not able to uh, form the sentence correctly. They will use one word to express their needs. Their speech will be impaired. In the ASD we had seen that a child speak one words or they express themselves gesturally because they had speech impairment. Is it clear, Rekha?
Yes, ma'am, but I wanted to understand in language processing disorder, uh, will there be any difficulty for the child
Yes.
to understand the language itself?
No, not always. In the language processing disorder is not always to understand the language. It's about expressing or processing the language. The child is able to get the information from the language or the speech, but the child is not able to process what the person is exactly saying. So he is not able to respond.
So can't understand.
Yeah, in the can't understand because there is a difficulty in processing.
Processing, okay. But whereas in developmental aphasia, the child is able to understand, but it doesn't
Yeah.
have words to express.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I understood. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, in relation to the same question, can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
In case the child has language processing disorder and is not able to process the language and not able to express verbally, will the child also show the same limitation in terms of writing? Right, written expression will also be affected.
Definitely. But this is not the condition about dysgraphia. This is a characterization. This is not that child would not be considered that the child have dysgraphia. The child have language
Okay.
processing disorder, and for that the child is not able to write it properly.
Okay, and if verbally the child is able to express and not in written, then it will be termed as dysgraphia.
Dysgraphia, yes.
Dysgraphia. Okay, and are we discussing the remediation methods also in this
Yeah.
class or in the next
No,
separate session?
not in this session. This session is over. Today we have talked about the type of dyslexia in a nutshell and about the assessment in the various type of assessment, formal assessment, informal assessment. But in for the next session, maybe next session or next three session, I will come with the proper characterization of every individual type of learning disability and with that assessment. And after that, I will come with the remedies.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Ma'am, I have sent you a mail. Just have a look and
I have gone
respond.
through that. We will talk about it later. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, Hima, you have raised your hand.
So I have a question regarding dyslexia and dysgraphia. Dyslexia, for me personally, I've had some people around who has dyslexia, but now I'm confused because if it's dyslexia or dysgraphia, because they have issues with B and D, 7 being the other side. So is it dyslexia or dysgraphia if that is the case?
Hima, it's very difficult to say without proper assessment because, as I told in the first during the first part of the session, that it's not like the child have only one problem. Mostly in the cases, one or two other condition is always associated. If the child is, it's very simple examples. Consider a situation where the child is not able to read what is written in the book. Will the child be able to understand what is written in the book? No, right? So if the child is not able to understand what written in the book, if you ask a questions when cognitive level is required, the child have to think and understand the content of the text and then the child have to write it down. Will the child able to write it down? No,
No.
right? So this is the one condition is always associated with other conditions. Dysgraphia and dyslexia is very closely related. Without proper formal assistance, it cannot be diagnosed the child has dysgraphia or dyslexia. But in dyslexia, in most of the cases, it's can be identified because it's visual, right? You can observe from the handwriting, it's a very illegible handwriting. B and D in the kids in the primary section, they mostly do this type of error. B and D, then P and Q, C, ACAC and SWC, they do this kind of errors. So a formal assessment is need to rule out whether the child have any learning disabilities or not.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Munira, who all have this right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, under informal assessment,
Mhm.
what is the meaning of rating scales?
Rating scales mean it's Mahmood, uh, a special educator or a psychologist. They use this rating scale to rate the level of the impairment or difficult condition. In one words, you have to learn how to use the rating scale. It's not like okay, I can explain what is exactly rating scale. Rating scale, it's basically scoring. Okay, from that scoring, the professionals will be able to understand that how much impairment is already happened or how much difficulty the child is facing, and based on that they can plan.
So, ma'am, this comes under informal assessment,
No, that's come under formal assessment.
formal assessment.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, please can you go through again for this informal assessment and formal assessment?
Formal assessment and informal assessment.
Yes.
Somebody has requested me to run the first two slide. The first slide is this one. And the second is the definition of assessment. There's two definition of assessment. This is informal assessment. Informal assessment is associated with classroom assessment, systematic observation, and file reviews and interview of parents, teachers, and the students. And why the informal assessment is also very important before you send a person for the formal assessment, because formal assessment is as always associated with time, money, and a professionals. So this all three come is very important when you are sending for a profession. So it's better not to waste this valuable time and the resources also. So formal assessment is very useful to identify the differences, whether this is learning difficulties or learning disabilities. That's why informal assessment is required before formal assessment. And in most of the cases that the child, after informal assessment, the problem is identified, and where some of the very empathetic teachers, they are able to provide remediation for the kids, and they successfully, their outcome is as expected. And informal assessment is very important for another part, because intervention, they can start the intervention as early as possible, because formal assessment is associated with long time. The professional will assess the child, then they will analyze the information, then the result will come. So by that time 2 or 3 months have already passed by. So if the child is already identified to having any sort of difficulties, whether the child is really categorized under learning disabilities or not, the remedial always can be started. And this is,
I had a question.
yeah, I will answer. Then how we can analyze, sorry, how we can gather the data from the family, teachers, counselor, school counselor, learning assistant, and other records, that is book, copy, any video performance, and relevant medical support. Then the formal assessment. Formal assessment can be done by a psychologist, okay, because special educator also not authorized to do the assessment, formal assessment. They also can do the screening and send the kid for assessment. And the formal assessment, they will assess for the perceptual and information processing speed, language and auditory processing, attention and other area of executive functions, motor ability, social skills, reading, writing, language, and mathematics. So this is the process. First, the psychologist will take the case history, then the IQ will be done, then the academic achievements will be analyzed, Then these batteries, for some international batteries and some of from India, that will be administered to the child. After that, emotional and behavioral assessment will be done. Then the report will, all the information will be gathered, analyzed, and a report will be generated.
Ma'am, case history and case study is same one and the same, right?
No. Case history,
No.
no. Case study is done by the professional itself. Like whatever information the professional has gathered, he will write it down in a structured form. His observation and analyzation of report. Is taken by a professional from the parents or the class teacher or the child itself. The information is provided from the parents, mostly in the parents, and sometimes the school authorities also associate. But case studies is done by the professionals. Whatever information the professionals gathered, he will write it down or she will write it down, note it down in a structured manner.
Ma'am, I have a question, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, next class also teach about this lesson, ma'am. Once again, ma'am. To
The same
interstate lesson
type.
it is.
No, the
Ma'am.
session will be continue on learning disability itself, but the topic will be different. Maybe I will take one difficulties, type of difficulties, and I will gone through with the detailed characterization, then the assessment technique, and after that, at the end, either I can plan it like one difficulties based on that, the characterization, the assessment type, and then the remedial, or all the it in the details, the type and the assessment type, and the end in total in a nutshell all the remediations
Yes, ma'am.
that I will
Ma'am, one
plan.
doubt. Grade level assessment device 1997 you told, ma'am. What is this, an act or else what is this?
No, this is a screening tool developed by Jayanti Narayan, who is a professor of special education from NIPIT Secunderabad.
Okay. What did it say? What did it tell about?
Grade level assessment device, it's a booklet form. There was a different worksheets are there based on the age and level of class. Like from class 1 to class 4, the child can be assessed with using this grade level assessment tools in English, maths, and mostly in Hindi. Hindi is there, but for the native language, it is the responsibility of the special educator to translate this Hindi to the native language, based and it is based on the curriculum.
Okay, ma'am.
There are
Okay,
the
ma'am. Thank you,
worksheet, and after completing the worksheet, the special educator analyze and they start scoring, and after that, a result will generated. The academic achievement result will be generated.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
I do have a query. Is it today's session was clear to everyone? Because I had touched two different domain. One is types and one types of LD, and another is a type of assessment.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I had one query.
Hmm.
So these batteries of tests and assessment tools that you have described, as a special educator, we need to know them. As in, we be assessing the children with these, or it will be the clinical
Are you a special
psychologist?
educator or psychologist?
No, ma'am. I am. I'm talking after doing this course with you all. I'm currently doing this special ed
Not to
course.
give the details how to administrate the only RCI professionals they are know how to administrate the
Okay. So
steps.
people who do their special ed from an RCA approved college, they are eligible for.
Yeah, they are they can.
Okay, understood.
Bandana, you have raised your hand.
Hello, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah, ma'am, I have a doubt like on learning disability or learning behavior. I have a one kid, like he is very good in academics, everything. But only thing is like we need to remind him again and again. See, when while he's writing, He'll write, but suddenly he'll stop and he'll divert into some other thing.
And then there is just so many background knowledge. I'm not able to understand what exactly you are talking.
One second, one second. One second. Hello, can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
I have one kid. Like he's very good in academics, everything, but handwriting is like normal. But sometimes he'll scribble it. But only the problem is like we need to remind him every time. Like you need to write, you need to read everything. We need to remind him, or else he'll get diverted very soon. Like while he's writing, suddenly he'll get diverted to something and he'll be doing some other simultaneous work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like related to learning disability or behavioral.
I don't think so. It's a behavioral issues or the child have attention deficit problem.
Yeah. Another thing is like he don't know to defend himself. He'll do the mistake and he don't know to defend himself. He'll be blank.
So this is not learning disability.
It's a behavioral.
Academic, I mean, academic achievement is up to as expected level. It is not associated with learning disability.
Yeah, he's very good. He's up to 90 plus. Like his academics is 90 plus. He's almost fourth standard now. He's into 90 plus. Even mathematics is very good. And only problem is like his behavior. We need to remind him continuously. You need to do this work. You are read. Even for eating, also we need to remind him eat, eat, eat.
But the child have attention deficit problem or some emotional disturbances going on into his mind. Is
Okay.
it socially the child is socializing with the
Yeah, he's
peers?
socializing. You want to interact with
There
everyone.
is some problem at home. Maybe that's why the child is always absent-minded or the attention deficit problem. Maybe it's not ADHD, but
Okay.
attention deficit. I mean
But
ADHD.
only thing is like if you are there also, if unknown person also, you want to go and speak to you. Whatever, if there is no topic also, you want to go and
The
speak.
child has attention deficit problem.
Okay, it's an attention, not in behavioral.
ADD. If the child is not hyperactive, so I from
He's a very hyperactive actually. He
I
won't sit in one place.
I just as an observer, I can say you maybe the child have attention deficit problem or some emotional disturbance going on into his mind.
Okay, but he is very hyperactive. He won't sit in one place. He is good in academics. He want to learn music. He want to involve in sports. Everything he want to do. But only thing is like we need to tell him like you are doing this thing. Do.
Maybe that kid is habituated also constant instruction.
Yeah, maybe he's
He is
he
very
needs
much
constant.
pampered or with strict instruction in the home that he cannot do always rectifications because kids
Okay.
should learn by doing. So they will
Oh,
learn
okay.
from error. The child maybe has
And
some
but when I
failure.
spoke to their parents, it's like this is because due to Corona, he was there for 2 years in home, and they didn't allow him to go outside and all. So from that,
That could be that cannot. I mean, without seeing the child, I cannot make
yeah.
it comment. Gayatri wants to contact with you,
Thank
and
you, ma'am.
she has written her mobile number. She wants to contact with you. If you feel good, you can contact with her. She has written her mobile.
Guy, sorry, I didn't get you.
Gayatri. Gayatri
Yeah.
wants to contact with you. She has written her mobile number in the chat box.
Okay.
If you are interested, you don't have any problem, you can contact with
Yeah,
her.
sure, ma'am. Thank you.
So, can you send any PDF for today's session? Mayuri, generally it's a live session, so there is a no PDF for that. But if you have any particular queries, you can mail me. You have already my mail ID, or you can ask me here. I will try to give explanation as much as possible for me. GLAD, I have mentioned GLAD is not available on the Google search. It is available only NIPET publication site, but you have to learn how to administer that. It's not about only the worksheets. After worksheet, scoring is associated. If you can't do the scoring, you will not get any result. You cannot draw any interference. Any more questions? So next session will be in the January, okay? And the January either will plan if anybody have any suggestion, I can plan in a two ways. One condition, characterization, assessment type, and remedy, or two, three, four types, characterization, assessment types, and then all our total new webinars with the remediations. So people can suggest me. I would love to hear from you people also what type of webinars you are looking for. If you have
Ma'am, can
suggestions,
we do the categorization and the remediation because I have an interview coming up. It will help me.
when do you have the interview?
Sometime in January, ma'am. First or second week of January.
But it will take time, Gayatri, because I don't know where we will be the next class. I will try at least one or two condition. I will. So
Yes,
one
ma'am.
thing
Yes,
I
ma'am.
can suggest you always can refer to some journals, Googles, and books with your particular queries.
Hmm.
You know about the types, right? You know about the condition, what type of student you are going to face in the classroom. Based on this situation, you can read. Like if the child have ASD, this is the child, this is the age, and what type of problem the child is facing, and what are the intervention can we provide. More or less, they are always seen. Okay, the intensity sometimes is different, or the presentation style is sometimes different. Bandana, sure, I will text you. Yeah. Bandana, Gayatri, Bandana will contact you.
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
Uh,
uh, hi
yes,
ma'am.
Mira.
Actually, I just joined very recently, like, not even, yeah, 1 month, no, 1 week as to not done it. So I just joined two sessions. Like this part for learning disabilities part two, one was not, this is the second part I'm just joined right now. So like, for the first part, what will be there, what was there and what will, like, what is the thing, like, so
Deban,
how
please, once again, please post the link for YouTube.
is there already? I think I had checked in the YouTube channel. It was
Yeah.
not there.
No, it will take some time to upload. It's not like the after the class it will directly upload it. It will take some time to upload it. You just subscribe the channel, you will get the information.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
And,
I just subscribed
and
yesterday.
another very in a short form, I can tell you it was about the introduction part about learning disability, the difference between learning disability and learning difficulties, and what are the assessment types. We have talked about a little bit about the assessment, and what was there?
Cause and effect we have.
Cause. We have the cause, and what else? Even I can't.
Assessment types. Clinical assessment.
I just mentioned the type. Mayuri, class is going on. I request to mute yourself. I know you all are attending the class from home, so there are some disturbance. It's okay. Let's keep yourself mute. Okay. So, like, what else we talked about? We have some characteristic. The main part we had mostly talk about the characteristic of learning disability based on the age, the level, primary level, then secondary level, how higher secondary level, how you will be able to understand by observing a kid in the various level whether the child have any special needs or not related to the learning. We mostly talk about this. Okay.
Okay,
I
ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
I can
Yeah,
understand
I'll
some.
just check it in YouTube. Yeah, yeah. I think
Why is it already uploaded? The part one video? Not yet, right?
yeah, I think he sent a link in the chat box.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just look into it right away.
Now, maybe it uploaded already. I'm not very sure about that whether it is uploaded or not, but it will be uploaded sooner or later. Okay, Munir.